The Grand Council chamber sat in the heart of the massive space station. The station floated in orbit around a dying star. Its red light made everything look like it was on fire. Inside the chamber, hundreds of alien species gathered. They came from every corner of the known galaxy.
Today was special.
Today, someone was declaring war. Emperor Vothrak stood at the center platform. He was tall, even for his species. The Zthar were known throughout the galaxy as warriors. Their empire had conquered 47 star systems. They had never lost a war. The Emperor's scales were dark blue, almost black. They reflected the red starlight. His 4 eyes scanned the room. He wanted everyone to see his power. "I call this council to order," the Emperor said. His voice was deep and strong. It echoed through the chamber. "I am here to make an official declaration. The Zthar Empire declares war on the human species." Silence filled the room. Then whispers started. The assembled aliens looked at each other. Some seemed worried. Others looked excited. War was always big news. But war against humans, that was interesting. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only joined the Galactic Senate 50 years ago. The Emperor continued. "The humans have broken galactic law. They expand too quickly. They take resources without asking permission. They refuse to pay tribute to stronger empires. They do not show proper respect. They must be taught a lesson." The Emperor listed more complaints. Each one seemed serious. The gathered aliens nodded. These were good reasons for war in galactic society. The strong dominated the weak. That was the way of things. Always had been. At the human section of the chamber, Ambassador Elena Vasquez sat quietly. She was a small woman compared to most species in the room. Her dark hair was pulled back. She wore a simple blue suit. Nothing fancy. She had been listening to the Emperor with her arms crossed. Her face showed no emotion. Then something strange happened. Elena started to laugh. It started small, just a quiet chuckle. But it grew. Soon she was laughing out loud. Her shoulders shook. She put one hand over her mouth, trying to stop. But she could not. The laughter kept coming. It echoed through the silent chamber. Every alien in the room turned to look at her. The Emperor's 4 eyes focused on the small human. His scales seemed to darken with anger. This was not the response he expected. Humans were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to beg for mercy. They were supposed to offer tribute. They were not supposed to laugh. "Silence," the Emperor roared. "You dare laugh at the declaration of the Zthar Empire? You dare mock our power?" Elena wiped tears from her eyes. She was still trying to control her laughter. She took a few deep breaths. "I apologize, Emperor," she said. But she was still smiling. "I do not mean to be rude, but I cannot help it." She reached down to her briefcase. It sat on the floor next to her chair. She opened it slowly. The whole chamber watched. What could she possibly have in there? A weapon? A peace offering? Elena pulled out a piece of paper. It was old and yellowed. The edges were worn. She held it up for everyone to see. "This," she said, "is a newspaper from Earth. It is from the year 2087. That was almost 200 years ago." The aliens leaned forward. Some had better eyes than others. Those who could read the human language saw the title, "The Onion." Below that was a headline in large letters. Elena read it out loud. Her voice was clear and steady. "Local man declares war on Wasp's nest. Wasp representative issues counter-declaration." Confusion spread through the chamber. The insectoid cleat representative clicked its mandibles nervously. The aquatic Drenali made bubbling sounds. The peaceful lumens glowed in different colors, which meant they were upset. What did this mean? What were wasps? What was this newspaper? Why was the human showing them this? The Emperor's scales turned almost black. "What is the meaning of this? Are you mocking me with your primitive news stories?" Elena folded the newspaper carefully. She put it back in her briefcase. When she looked up at the Emperor, she was no longer smiling. Her face was serious now, almost sad. "No, Emperor," she said quietly. "I am not mocking you. I am trying to save you." She stood up. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the Emperor seemed uncertain. This was not going the way he planned. "I request an emergency session," Elena said. "I believe the members of this council need to know the full truth about humanity. About what we really are, about where we come from. I think the Emperor should know exactly what he is declaring war against." The head of the Galactic Senate was a wise old being called a keeper. He had lived for 500 years. He had seen many wars. Something in Elena's voice made him nervous. He looked at the Emperor, then at Elena, then back again. "Request granted," the Keeper said. "We will reconvene in 1 standard hour. Ambassador Vasquez will present her case. The Emperor's declaration will be held until we hear her words." As the aliens filed out of the chamber, they whispered to each other. What could the human possibly say? What truth was she talking about? The Emperor left with his guards. He looked confident. But some of his advisors looked worried. Elena stayed in her seat. She looked at the yellowed newspaper in her briefcase. She thought about home, about Earth, about everything that made humans what they were. She knew what she had to tell them. She knew they would not believe it at first. She also knew that once they understood, everything would change. The declaration of war was supposed to be simple. The Emperor made his demands. The humans surrendered or died. That was how it always worked. That was how the galaxy operated. But humans did not follow the rules. They never had. And in 1 hour, the galaxy was about to find out why that was terrifying. 1 hour later, the council chamber filled again. But this time it was different. The main chamber was too large for what Elena wanted to show. Instead, they met in a smaller diplomatic room. The walls were made of glass that looked out into space. The dying star cast its red glow over everything. Not everyone was invited. Only Earth's closest allies were there. The insectoid clique sat in specially designed chairs. The aquatic drenali floated in their water tanks. The peaceful lumens glowed softly in the dim light. These 3 species had been friendly with humans since first contact. They trusted Elena, but even they looked nervous. The Emperor was not invited. This session was not for him. Not yet. Elena stood at the front of the room. Behind her was a large display screen. She held a small device in her hand. She looked tired. The laughter from earlier was gone. Now she just looked sad. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know you are confused. I know the Emperor's declaration worried you. You are our friends. You deserve to know the truth. The full truth. Not the edited version we gave you 50 years ago." The clique representative clicked its mandibles. "What do you mean, edited version? You told us about Earth, about your history, about your culture." "We told you some things," Elena said. "We told you the good parts. We told you about our art and music. We told you about our desire for peace. We told you we wanted to join the galactic community. All of that was true. But we left out the scary parts. We left out the parts that would have made you reject us." She pressed a button on her device. The screen behind her lit up. It showed a planet. Blue and green and white, beautiful, Earth. "This is our home," Elena said. "It looks peaceful, does it not?" The Galactic Survey rated it as a Class 12 hazard world. Do you know how rare that is? There are only 3 Class 12 worlds in the known galaxy. Most species evolve on Class 1 or 2 worlds. Calm places, safe places, worlds where life is easy. The image changed. Now it showed massive storms, tornadoes that destroyed entire cities, hurricanes that covered half a continent, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that turned day into night with their ash. "Earth tries to kill us," Elena said simply. "It always has. The weather is extreme. The ground shakes without warning. Mountains explode. The oceans rise up and swallow our cities, and we just rebuild. Every time. We look at the place that tried to kill us and we build our homes there again." The lumens dimmed. That meant they were scared. The drenali made quiet bubbling sounds. Even the brave clique shifted uncomfortably. "But the weather is not the worst part," Elena continued. The screen changed again. Now it showed animals. Large animals with sharp teeth. Fast animals with claws. Poisonous animals. Animals that hunted in packs. Almost everything on Earth wants to eat us. Or poison us. Or crush us. We are not the biggest. We are not the fastest. We are not the strongest. But we are here. We survived. Do you know how? She did not wait for an answer. The screen showed ancient humans. They were hunting animals much larger than themselves. They used simple weapons, spears, rocks, fire. "We became hunters," Elena said. "We did not just defend ourselves. We hunted the things that hunted us. We tracked them. We learned their habits. We found their weaknesses. And we killed them. We killed so many of them that they became extinct. We hunted the greatest predators on our planet until they were gone." "Then something interesting happened," Elena said. "We looked at the animals that were left. The dangerous ones. And we decided to make them into pets. We took wolves, animals that hunted in packs and killed with their teeth. We bred them. We trained them. Now they are called dogs. They live in our homes. They sleep in our beds. They love us. We turned our predators into our friends. The alien stared at the screen. It now showed humans with dogs. The humans were smiling. The dogs were wagging their tails. It looked so peaceful, so innocent. But now they understood what they were really seeing. After we conquered our planet, Elena said, we started fighting each other. We have had thousands of wars. Millions of our people died. We invented weapons that could kill from far away, then weapons that could kill thousands at once, then weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. The screen showed mushroom clouds, nuclear explosions. Cities turned to ash in moments. We split the atom, Elena said. We took the smallest thing we could find and we broke it open to see what would happen. It released enough energy to destroy a city, so we built bombs. Thousands of them. We pointed them at each other. We called it mutually assured destruction, MAD. If you attack us, we destroy you. Even if you destroy us first. Even if we all die, we take you with us. That is insane, the Cleat representative said. Its voice was quiet, shocked. Yes, Elena agreed. It is insane. But it worked. We have not used nuclear weapons in war for over 200 years. Because everyone knows what will happen if we do. Everyone dies. And humans would rather die than surrender. The screen changed again. Now it showed humans doing strange things. Climbing mountains without ropes. Jumping out of aircraft for fun. Swimming with sharks. Racing cars at dangerous speeds. We climb mountains because they are there, Elena said. We jump from high places with only a parachute. We invented something called extreme sports. We pay money to put ourselves in danger. For entertainment. For fun. One of the lumens fainted. Its glow went completely out. The others had to revive it. And the newspaper? The Drenali asked. What did that mean? Elena smiled sadly. The newspaper was satire. It was a joke. Humans write fake news stories about terrible things. And we laugh. We laugh at death. We laugh at danger. We laugh at our own extinction. Because if we did not laugh, we would go mad. Our world has tried to kill us for so long that we turned our fear into humor. She turned off the screen. The room was lit only by the red star outside. The aliens looked at her in the dim light. They saw her differently now. This small woman, this representative of a species they thought was weak. They understood now. Humans were not weak. Humans were survivors, and survivors were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The Emperor does not know what he is declaring war against, Elena said. He sees a young species, a small empire, weak ships, few weapons. He thinks we will be easy to conquer. But he is wrong. He is not declaring war on us. He is declaring war on a species that looked at death itself and said, "Not today." The Cleat spoke quietly. "What do you need from us?" "I need you to understand," Elena said. "When the Emperor comes back, when he demands his war, you need to know what will happen. Not because I want to threaten anyone, but because I want to save lives. His lives. His people's lives. Because once this starts, we cannot stop it. That is what humans are. We do not stop, ever." The allies sat in silence. Outside, the dying star burned. Inside, they had just learned that the galaxy's newest members were also its most terrifying. And tomorrow, they would have to watch as one of the galaxy's oldest empires made the biggest mistake in its history. Far from the council station, the Zthar war fleet was gathering. Hundreds of ships assembled in formation. They were massive vessels built for conquest. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could withstand the fire of a dozen enemy fleets. The Emperor's flagship sat at the center, larger than all the others. On the bridge, Commander Zthnal reviewed the intelligence reports. He was the Emperor's most trusted military officer. He had won every battle he had ever fought. 30 systems had fallen to his strategies. He did not know the meaning of defeat. "What do we know about human military strength?" he asked his officers. One of them brought up data on the main screen. "They have approximately 200 warships, Commander. Most are small. They have weapons, but they are not impressive. Their shields are standard civilian grade. Their population is spread across 12 systems. They have no major defensive structures, no fortress worlds. They will fall quickly." The commander nodded. It was as he expected. "What about this incident at the council?" "I heard their ambassador laughed at the Emperor's declaration. She did, Commander. Then she showed them some old document, something about insects. Our intelligence officers believe it was psychological warfare. A bluff to make us think twice. A bluff, the commander repeated. He looked at the data again. 200 ships. 12 systems. Weak defenses. No species jokes about their own extinction. That is not how psychology works. Fear makes creatures serious. She is trying to seem confident to hide their weakness. His officers agreed. It made sense. It followed all the rules of warfare they knew. The weak pretended to be strong. The strong showed their power. Humans were weak, so they were pretending. Simple. Continue preparations, the commander ordered. We move on the Emperor's command. The humans will surrender or they will burn. Either way, this war will be over in a month. Back at the council station, Elena was giving another presentation. This time, the room was larger. More species were allowed to attend. The Emperor was still not invited. Elena wanted to make sure everyone understood before he heard the full truth. The screen behind her showed images from Earth again. But these were different from before. These showed humans doing things that made no sense to the assembled aliens. This is what we call entertainment, Elena said. The screen showed a movie. Humans were running from monsters. Cities were destroyed. Millions died. Then the credits rolled. The humans in the theater stood up and left, talking and laughing. We create fictional stories about our own destruction, Elena explained. For fun. We pay money to watch our cities burn. We watch stories about plagues that kill us all. About aliens that invade and wipe us out. About our own artificial intelligence turning against us. We imagine every possible way we could die. Then we make it into entertainment. The screen changed. Now it showed what humans called horror movies. Terrible creatures. Dark places. Humans being hunted and killed. The aliens watching felt sick. How could anyone enjoy this? Horror movies, Elena said. We watch them for recreation. We create the scariest things we can imagine. Then we watch them alone in the dark while eating food. Some humans say they like to be scared. It makes them feel alive. A representative from a peaceful species stood up. This is madness. Why would you do this to yourselves? Elena paused. Because we have lived with death for so long that we needed to understand it. To control it. We cannot stop death, but we can practice dying. We can face our fears over and over until they do not frighten us anymore. That is what humans do. We take the things that scare us and we turn them into games. The screen changed again. Now it showed extreme sports. Humans throwing themselves off cliffs with only thin fabric to catch the wind. Humans diving into deep water with tiny tanks of air. Humans racing vehicles at speeds that would tear most species apart. We have a phrase, Elena said. Hold my beer. It means watch me do something dangerous and probably stupid. It means I am going to risk my life for no good reason except to prove I can. It means I am human and death does not scare me enough to stop. More lumens were fainting now. The cleat were clicking nervously. Even the normally calm Dren Ali looked disturbed. The newspaper I showed the Emperor, Elena continued, was from a publication called The Onion. It specializes in satire, in finding humor in terrible things. The story about the man and the wasp's nest was meant to be funny, because it was absurd. Because wasps cannot declare war. Because a man cannot fight an entire colony of insects and win. She paused. Let that sink in. Except, Elena said quietly, humans do fight insects and win. We fight everything and win. That is what the story really means. It is funny because it is true. We are the species that declares war on concepts, on ideas, on parts of ourselves we do not like. The screen showed more human history. Wars on poverty. Wars on drugs. Wars on disease. Wars on aging itself. Humans fighting things that could not be fought with weapons. We declared war on smallpox, Elena said. A disease. We hunted it down. We found every last trace of it on our entire planet. And we destroyed it. It no longer exists except in secure laboratories. We made an entire disease go extinct. Because we declared war on it. We declared war on distance. We invented machines that let us travel faster. We left our planet because we refused to stay in one place. We declared war on the very idea of limits. We declared war on death itself. We invented medicine, surgery, ways to keep our hearts beating even when they should stop. We refused to accept that anything is permanent, including our own mortality. Elena turned off the screen. She looked at the assembled aliens. They were silent, trying to process what they had learned. The Emperor thinks he is declaring war on a weak species, Elena said. But he is not. He is declaring war on a species that finds humor in its own extinction, a species that turns its fears into entertainment, a species that looks at impossible challenges and says, "Hold my beer." She picked up the old newspaper from her briefcase, held it up one more time. This is not propaganda. This is not psychological warfare. This is just who we are. And if the Emperor proceeds with his declaration, he will learn exactly what that means. Not because I want war, but because humans do not know how to do anything halfway. When we fight until there is nothing left to fight with. Then we fight with our bare hands. Then we fight with our teeth. And we never ever surrender. The room was silent for a long time. Finally, one of the older ambassadors spoke. Her species had been part of the galactic community for thousands of years. She had seen many wars. "Someone needs to tell the Emperor," she said quietly, "before it is too late. Someone needs to make him understand." Elena nodded. "That is what I am trying to do. But I do not think he will listen. Most species do not understand until it is too late, until they see what humans become when they have no other choice. I am hoping that sharing this with all of you will be enough, that you will help him see reason." As the ambassadors filed out, they whispered to each other. The word spread through the station. The humans were not what they seemed. They were not weak. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors. And survivors never stopped fighting, never. Elena sat alone in her quarters. The station was quiet at this hour. She looked at an old data file on her tablet. It was marked classified. For 50 years, this information had been hidden from the galactic community, but now she needed to share it. Now they needed to see the truth. The file was titled First Contact True Records. She opened it and began to read. She had read it many times before, but every time it still made her sad. The galaxy should have known from the beginning, but the decision had been made to hide the truth, to let humans integrate slowly, to give them time to show they could be peaceful. Tomorrow she would share this file with everyone. But tonight she just read and remembered. 50 years ago, a galactic survey ship had discovered Earth. It was pure chance. The ship was mapping new systems on the edge of known space. Earth was just another planet to scan and catalog. The survey team expected to find simple life, maybe some basic organisms. Nothing special, but the scans showed something different. Earth had complex life, cities, technology, radio signals. The species there had already split the atom. They had sent machines into space. They had walked on their own moon. This was first contact protocol. An intelligent species had been found. The survey captain was excited. First contact was rare. It was an honor. He ordered a full planetary scan. Everything about this species needed to be documented. Their biology, their history, their culture, their level of technology, all of it. The ship's artificial intelligence processed the data. It took 3 days. When the report came back, the AI added a special designation at the top. The captain had never seen it used before. Species-level threat. Quarantine recommended. The captain read the report in shock. Humans had survived an ice age that should have killed them. They had survived plagues that killed half their population. They had survived a nuclear standoff where they almost destroyed their own planet. And they kept going. They kept building. They kept fighting. The AI's analysis was clear. Humans had developed computers while still fighting each other with primitive weapons. They had invented nuclear bombs before they had safe energy. They had reached space while wars still raged on their surface. Their technological advancement was fast. Too fast. Dangerously fast. Most species took thousands of years to develop peacefully. They learned cooperation before they learned destruction. They unified their planets before they reached for the stars. Humans did everything backwards. They had weapons that could end their world, but they still had not achieved peace. The AI recommended quarantine. Leave them alone. Let them destroy themselves if that was their path. Do not make contact. Do not let them join the galactic community. They were too dangerous, but the captain made a different choice. He was an idealist. He believed every species deserved a chance. He believed humans could learn, could grow, could become better. He decided to make contact anyway. It was the most controversial decision in galactic history. Half the council wanted him arrested. The other half wanted to see what would happen. They compromised. Contact would be made, but humans would be watched closely, restricted. If they showed signs of aggression, the contact would end. The quarantine would begin. The humans were welcomed into the galactic community with strict conditions. They could only settle 12 systems. They could only build a limited fleet. They had to prove themselves peaceful. For 50 years they did. They followed the rules. They made friends. They traded. They seemed harmless, but the restrictions quietly lifted over time. Humans were good at following rules, good at making people comfortable, good at seeming harmless. The galaxy forgot that first report. They forgot the AI's warning. They stopped watching so closely. Elena closed the file. She looked out the window at the stars. The galaxy thought humans were contained, thought they were controlled, thought they were safe. They were wrong. Tomorrow at the council, Elena would present this file. She would show them what the AI had seen 50 years ago. She would show them what humans really were, not because she wanted to scare them, but because the Emperor needed to understand. The whole galaxy needed to understand. Humans were not weak. They never had been. They had just been playing by the rules, waiting, building, preparing. And if the Emperor forced their hand, the galaxy would see what humans became when the rules no longer mattered. The next morning, the full council assembled. This time, the Emperor was present. He sat on his elevated platform surrounded by his guards. He looked confident, amused even. He had heard about Elena's presentations. He thought they were desperate attempts to avoid the inevitable. War was coming. Nothing could stop it now. Elena stood at the center of the chamber. She held a data chip in her hand. The keeper of the council looked at her with sad old eyes. He knew what was on that chip. He had been there for first contact. He had voted to allow humans in despite the warnings. He had hoped he made the right choice. Now he was not sure. "Members of the council," Elena said. Her voice was calm but firm. "You have heard me speak about human culture, about our history, about what makes us who we are. But there is something else you need to see, something that has been classified for 50 years, something that should have been shared from the beginning." She held up the data chip. "This is the original first contact report, the one written by the survey ship AI when they discovered Earth. I am going to play it now. I want you all to understand what we are, not what we pretended to be, what we actually are." The Emperor leaned forward. "This might actually be interesting." Elena inserted the chip. The chamber's main screen lit up. The AI's voice filled the room. Cold, mechanical, factual. Species designation, human. Planet designation, Earth. Classification, Class 12. Hazard world. Species threat level, critical. Recommendation, immediate quarantine. Do not engage. Do not contact. Probability of successful integration into galactic society, 0.03%. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted at each other. The Emperor's guards shifted nervously. Even the Emperor looked surprised. 0.03%? That meant the AI thought humans had almost no chance of joining peacefully. The AI continued. "This species has survived multiple extinction events through adaptation and aggression. They have developed nuclear weapons while still divided into warring nations. They possess the means to destroy their own planet and have come close to using them multiple times. They show no signs of unified government, no signs of planetary peace. They explore space while wars continue on their surface. Most concerning, this species appears to have weaponized their own evolution. They deliberately place themselves in dangerous situations. They seek out challenges that should kill them. They appear to thrive on conflict." Threat assessment. If allowed into galactic society, this species will either destroy themselves or become a dominant force through unpredictable means. There is no middle ground. The recording ended. Silence filled the chamber. Every eye turned to Elena. She stood there calmly, waiting. Let them process it. Let them understand. The Emperor stood. His voice boomed across the chamber. "So you admit it. You admit your species was deemed too dangerous. You admit you should never have been allowed in. This only proves I am right to declare war." Elena looked up at him. She did not look afraid. She looked sad. "No, Emperor. I am showing you this so you understand what you are declaring war against." The AI was right about one thing. There is no middle ground for humans. We either destroy ourselves or we become dominant, and we have not destroyed ourselves. The Emperor stared at her. For the first time, he felt something he had not felt in many years, uncertainty. This small human, this weak species. The AI had called them a critical threat. Why, Elena continued. You wanted to know why I laughed, why I showed you that newspaper. Now you know. 50 years ago, an AI looked at everything we are and said we should be quarantined, left alone, treated like a plague, and they were not wrong. We are dangerous. We have always been dangerous. The only question is whether you want to find out exactly how dangerous. The chamber was silent. Outside the windows, stars continued to burn. Inside, the galaxy held its breath. The Emperor had declared war, but now he knew what he had declared war against. The question was, would he continue? Or would he be the first Zthar Emperor to back down from a fight? The council chamber remained silent after the recording ended. Elena could feel the weight of every eye on her. She had shown them the truth. Now came the hardest part. She needed to make the Emperor understand what war with humanity would actually mean. Emperor Vothrak, Elena said, I request a private meeting. Just you and me. I want to give you one final chance to rescind your declaration. The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. You think I need to hear more of your warnings? More of your psychological tricks? I am not afraid of your species, human. The AI was wrong. You are weak. Your fleet is small. Your weapons are limited. You will fall like all the others. Then what do you have to lose by talking to me? Elena asked. Give me 1 hour. If you still want war after that, then you can have it. But at least you will know exactly what you are starting. The Emperor considered this. He was confident in his power. But something about her calm demeanor bothered him. She should be terrified. She should be begging. Instead, she stood there like she was trying to save him, not her people. Fine, he said. 1 hour. But it will change nothing. They met in a secure communication room, just the two of them, connected by hologram. The Emperor's image towered over Elena. She had pulled a chair close to the projector. She sat down and looked up at him. For a moment, neither spoke. You do not understand what human wars are like, Elena began. You think war is about territory, about resources, about who has the bigger fleet. That is how galactic wars work. Armies meet. Battles happen. One side wins. One side surrenders. Everyone moves on. That is not how humans fight, she continued. When we go to war, we do not just fight armies. We fight entire populations. We invented something called total war. It means everyone becomes a target. Soldiers, yes, but also factories, supply lines, cities, everything that supports the enemy. We burn it all, the Emperor snorted. All species do this in war. No, Elena said quietly. They do not. Not like we do. Let me explain. We have a tactic called scorched earth. When we retreat, we destroy everything behind us. We burn the crops. We poison the wells. We destroy the roads. We leave nothing for the enemy. Nothing. We would rather destroy our own land than let the enemy have it. She pulled up images on her tablet. She shared them with the hologram. The Emperor saw human wars, cities reduced to rubble, landscapes burned black, rivers turned to poison, entire regions made uninhabitable. We split the atom just to see what would happen, Elena said. Then we used it as a weapon twice on our own species, on cities full of civilians, and we did it to end a war, not because we were losing, but because we wanted it to end faster. We killed hundreds of thousands in seconds because it saved time. The Emperor shifted. That was troubling, yes, but he had powerful weapons too. Then we invented mutually assured destruction. Elena continued. Mad. We built enough nuclear weapons to destroy our planet many times over. We pointed them at each other. We told each other, if you attack us, we will launch everything. Even if you destroy us completely, our weapons will still fire. They are automated. They cannot be stopped. If we die, you die. Everyone dies. That prevented war, she said. Not because we were peaceful, but because everyone understood that attacking us meant mutual extinction. And humans would rather die than lose. That is what you need to understand, Emperor. Humans do not surrender ever. We would rather burn everything to ash than admit defeat. The Emperor was quiet now. This was different from what he expected. But he still had more ships, more weapons, more systems. Elena saw his hesitation. She pressed on. You scanned our fleet. You saw 200 warships. Small ones, weak ones. But you did not ask the right questions. You did not wonder why our merchant fleet is so large. You did not wonder why our asteroid mining operations are so extensive. You did not wonder why we have so many research stations in deep space. She pulled up more files, shared them with the hologram. The Emperor's 4 eyes widened as he saw the data. "Those merchant ships," Elena said. "They are built on military chassis. They can be converted to warships in days. We have 2,000 of them. Those asteroid mining operations? They are weapons factories. They produce enough material to build 100 ships a month. Those research stations? They are testing new weapons, things that would make your military advisors sick." The Emperor stared at the data. The human merchant fleet tonnage exceeded his entire navy. If they could convert those ships to military use, if they could build at that rate, then the war would not be quick. It would be long, costly. "We have been at peace for 50 years, Elena said. "That is the longest peace in our recorded history." "Do you know what that means?" "It means my people are restless. It means we have a generation of humans who have never fought, who have never tested themselves, who are looking for a challenge." She leaned forward. "I am not trying to prevent this war to save my people, Emperor. We will survive. We always do. I am trying to prevent this war to save yours, because once it starts, we cannot stop it. That is what humans are. We do not know how to do anything halfway. When you attack our colonies, we will not just defend them. We will hunt down every ship you send. We will track them back to your systems. We will attack your worlds. We will never stop until either you are destroyed or we are. There will be no negotiation, no peace talks, no surrender. Just war until one species cannot fight anymore." The Emperor was silent for a long time. He looked at the data, at the images of human wars, at the cold calculations showing human industrial capacity. This was not what his intelligence had said. This was not what he expected. "Why did you hide this?" he asked finally. "Why did you pretend to be weak?" "Because we wanted peace," Elena said. "Because we were tired of war. Because we thought maybe, just maybe, we could be different in the galaxy. We could be the species that chose peace instead of conflict. We could be better than we were on Earth." She stood up. "We have a saying, Emperor. We have invented 100 ways to die and called them hobbies. We jump from aircraft for fun. We climb mountains because they are there. We swim with predators that could kill us. We do all of this because death does not scare us enough to stop living. If you declare war on us, you will not be fighting an army. You will be fighting a species that has spent its entire existence learning how to survive impossible odds. A species that jokes about extinction. A species that turns its fears into games. A species that looks at death and says, 'Not today.'" The Emperor looked at her, this small human, this representative of a species he thought was weak. He saw her clearly now. She was not afraid of him. She was afraid for him. She was trying to save his people from what humans would become in war. "You have 48 hours, Elena said. "Rescind your declaration. Call it a misunderstanding. Call it a diplomatic error. Call it whatever you want. But end this before it begins, because once it starts, I cannot stop it. My government will not stop it. My people will not stop it. We will fight until your empire is ash or ours is. There is no middle ground." She reached for the control to end the hologram, but she paused. "The newspaper I showed you. The story about the man and the wasps. Do you want to know how it really ended?" The Emperor nodded slowly. "The man won," Elena said quietly. "He destroyed the nest. Then he built a house where it used to be. He named the street Wasp Valley. Out of spite. That is what humans do, Emperor. We do not just win. We make homes in the ashes and laugh about it afterward." She ended the connection. The hologram faded. The Emperor stood alone in his command room. He looked at the data she had shared. He looked at the fleet reports. He looked at the intelligence assessments that suddenly seemed incomplete and naive. For the first time in his long military career, Emperor Vothrak wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The declaration of war was issued. His honor demanded he follow through. But honor meant nothing if his entire empire burned. He had 48 hours to decide. Would he be the first Zthar emperor to back down, or would he be the last Zthar emperor, the one who destroyed his people by underestimating humans? The clock was ticking. 48 hours passed slowly. The galaxy held its breath. News of the Emperor's declaration had spread to every system. Every species watched and waited. Would there be war? Would humanity, the newcomers who had seemed so peaceful, finally show their true nature? On the Zthar flagship, Emperor Vothrak sat in his private chambers. He had not slept. For 2 days he had reviewed every piece of data about humans, everything his intelligence had gathered, everything Elena had shown him, everything he could find in the galactic records. The more he learned, the more troubled he became. Humans had fought wars for thousands of years. They had weapons that could destroy their own world. They had tactics that seemed insane. They never surrendered. They never gave up. They just kept fighting until nothing was left. His advisors were divided. Half wanted to proceed with the war. The Zthar had never backed down. Their honor demanded they follow through. The other half were nervous. They had seen the same data. They understood what Elena was warning them about. Commander Zethnal entered the chamber. He looked tired. He had been running war simulations for 2 days straight. Every simulation ended badly, not because the Zthar lost, but because winning cost too much, too many ships, too many lives, too much time. And the humans never stopped. Even in defeat, they kept fighting. The simulations are complete, Emperor, the commander said. We can win. Our fleet is larger. Our weapons are stronger, but the cost will be severe. The humans will not surrender. They will fight for every system. Every planet. Every ship. The war will last decades, maybe longer. And their industrial capacity? The Emperor asked. The commander hesitated. We underestimated it. Badly. If they convert their merchant fleet, they will match our numbers within months. If they fully mobilize their mining operations, they can outproduce us. We would win the first battles. But we might lose the war. The Emperor closed his 4 eyes. He had never backed down from a fight, never. But he had also never fought a species like this. A species that seemed weak but was actually terrifying. A species that hid its strength until threatened. A species that would rather die than lose. The deadline arrived. The council assembled once more. The chamber was packed. Every species wanted to witness what happened next. Would there be war? Or would the Emperor back down? Emperor Vothrak stood at his platform. He looked down at Elena. She sat calmly in her chair. No fear in her eyes. No triumph either. Just sadness. She had tried to warn him. She had shown him the truth. Now he had to make his choice. Members of the council, the Emperor began. His voice was steady but different. Less proud. More careful. I have reviewed all the information about humanity. I have consulted with my advisors. I have run the simulations. I have considered the costs, he paused. The chamber was silent. Everyone waited. I have decided, the Emperor said, that my declaration of war was issued in error. There was a misunderstanding about human intentions, a miscommunication about their expansion. I hereby rescind my declaration. The Zthar Empire apologizes for any confusion this may have caused. Shock rippled through the chamber. The mighty Emperor Vothrak had backed down. The Zthar, who had never lost a war, had just avoided one. Some aliens whispered. Others looked relieved. A few looked disappointed. They had wanted to see what would happen. Elena stood. She nodded to the Emperor. It was not a gesture of victory. It was respect. He had been smart enough to listen, smart enough to understand, smart enough to choose his people over his pride. The human delegation accepts your apology, Elena said. We look forward to peaceful relations with the Zthar Empire. We believe this misunderstanding will make both our peoples stronger. The council adjourned. The crisis was over. There would be no war. The galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief. News networks reported the resolution. Diplomats praised the peaceful outcome. Everything went back to normal. But things were different now. The galaxy had learned something. Humans were not what they seemed. They were not the peaceful newcomers everyone thought. They were survivors, dangerous survivors. And every species now understood. You did not want to fight them unless you absolutely had to. That evening, Elena returned to her quarters. She was exhausted. 2 days of tension had drained her. She activated her communication device and called home. Her daughter's face appeared on the screen. She was 12 years old with her mother's dark hair and bright eyes. Mom, the girl said excitedly. We saw the news. There was almost a war. Are you okay? I am fine, sweetheart, Elena said. She smiled tiredly. There will not be a war. It was just a misunderstanding. Did you show them the newspaper? Her daughter asked. Elena laughed. I did. I showed them the newspaper. Did you explain the joke? Elena's smile widened. I let them think we were the wasps. Her daughter giggled. That is smart, Mom. They talked for a while longer. About school. About friends. About normal things. Things that had nothing to do with war or empires or survival. When the call ended, Elena sat alone in her quarters. She looked at her desk. There was another newspaper article there. She had not shown this one to the council. It was recent from Earth. The headline read, "Humanity reaches 100 systems. Economists debate expansion or infestation." Elena picked it up and read it. The article was half serious economic analysis, half dark humor. That was the human way. Always joking about the serious things. Always making light of the heavy things. It was how they coped. How they survived. She opened her personal journal. It was old-fashioned. Paper and pen. She preferred it to digital. There was something permanent about ink on paper. Something real. She wrote, "The Emperor thought declaring war would make us submit. He did not understand. Humans are the species that looked at the food chain and decided we were not on it. We owned it." The newspaper was not a joke. It was a warning wrapped in truth. Humanity does not just fight wars. We make homes in the ashes and laugh about it afterward. She closed the journal. Outside her window, the station's lights reflected off the dying star. It was beautiful in a sad way. Everything ended eventually. Stars died. Empires fell. Species went extinct. That was the nature of the universe. But humans had looked at that truth and said, not us. Not yet, not without a fight. That was what made them special. What made them terrifying. What made them human. 6 months later, the Zthar Empire formally joined the Terran Alliance. It shocked many species. The proud warriors joining with the newcomers? Why? A reporter asked Emperor Vothrak about it during the signing ceremony. The Emperor had thought carefully about his answer. When he spoke, his words were simple and honest. If you cannot beat them and fighting them is suicide, you join them, and you hope they remember you were smart enough not to try. The alliance was strong. The Zthar brought military experience. Humans brought innovation and relentless determination. Together they were formidable. Other empires watched nervously. The galaxy was changing. The old rules no longer applied. And somewhere in the archives, in a secure file that few could access, was an old newspaper. Yellowed and worn. The headline still clear. Local man declares war on Wasp's nest. Wasp representative issues counter-declaration. Below that, in smaller text that Elena had not shown the Emperor, was the rest of the story. It described how the man had won his war, how he had destroyed the nest completely, how he had built a house on that exact spot, how he had named the entire neighborhood Wasp Valley. The final line of the article read, "When asked why he chose that name, the man smiled and said, 'I wanted everyone to remember who won. And I wanted the wasps to know if they ever came back that humans do not just win. We build monuments to our victories and laugh about them.' That was humanity in one sentence. That was why the Emperor backed down. That was why the galaxy watched nervously as humans continued to expand, not because they were aggressive, but because they were unstoppable. And the only thing more dangerous than a species that wanted to fight was a species that did not want to, but would anyway. A species that would win, build a house where the battle was fought and name it after their enemies. Out of spite, out of humor, out of that uniquely human quality of turning everything, even war, into a story to tell later. The galaxy learned its lesson. Do not start wars with humans, not because you will lose, but because even if you win, you will lose everything, and if they win, they will make sure you never forget it. They will laugh about it. They will joke about it. They will turn it into entertainment and show it to their children. That was the real warning in the newspaper. Not that humans were strong, but that they were the kind of species that found humor in conflict. That turned their darkest moments into comedy. That looked at their own potential extinction and made jokes. Because if you could laugh at death, death had no power over you, and humanity, Earth's children, the survivors of a Class 12 hazard world, the species that split atoms and climbed mountains and declared war on concepts. They knew how to laugh, even when everything burned. Especially when everything burned, because that was when you needed laughter the most.